In a quiet, forgotten corner of a bustling metropolis, there lived an old man named Arthur. He wasn't rich, nor was he famous. He lived in a modest, small apartment, filled not with treasures of gold and silver, but with books, memories, and the gentle scent of chamomile tea. To an outsider, his life might have seemed mundane, a simple existence devoid of excitement or grandeur. Yet Arthur possessed a treasure far more valuable than any worldly possession: a profoundly thankful heart. Each morning, as the first rays of sunlight painted the sky, Arthur would sit by his window, a simple cup of tea in his hands, and begin his day with a quiet ritual. He would look out at the waking city, at the hurried footsteps of people rushing to their important lives, and he would whisper, "Thank you." He wasn't thanking any one person or deity in particular. It was a broader, more encompassing gratitude. He was thankful for the warmth of the sun on his face, for the taste of the tea on his tongue, for the steady rhythm of his own heartbeat. He was thankful for the distant sound of a child's laughter, for the sight of a pigeon taking flight from a nearby rooftop, for the very air he breathed. This daily practice wasn't a chore. It was the anchor of his soul, the foundation upon which he built his day. It was this simple act of gratitude that filled his humble home with a palpable sense of peace, a tranquility that seemed to seep into the very walls and wrap itself around anyone who entered. Arthur hadn't always been this way. In his youth, he was a man named Art, a driven and ambitious architect who chased success with a relentless hunger. He designed towering skyscrapers that pierced the clouds and sprawling complexes that reshaped city skylines. He had a large, opulent house, a series of expensive cars, and a calendar filled with important meetings and lavish parties. He had everything the world told him he should want. He achieved success after success, yet a strange emptiness gnawed at him. Each victory felt hollow. Each new acquisition failed to fill the void. He was constantly striving, constantly reaching for the next big thing, believing that true happiness lay just over the next horizon, with the next contract, the next award. He was surrounded by people, yet he felt profoundly alone. His conversations were about business, about deals, about growth. He measured his worth by the size of his bank account and the number of accolades on his wall. He saw life as a series of obstacles to be conquered, a ladder to be climbed. He rarely paused to look around, to appreciate the journey. He was so focused on building his empire that he failed to build a life. The world was a blur of deadlines and expectations, and in this frantic race, he had lost touch with himself. He was a man running on a treadmill, sweating and striving, yet ultimately going nowhere. The peace he craved remained elusive, always just out of his grasp. The turning point came not with a bang, but with a quiet, devastating whisper. A major economic downturn hit the industry like a tidal wave. Projects were canceled, investments soured, and the empire Art had so meticulously built began to crumble. One by one, the symbols of his success were stripped away. The expensive cars were sold. The opulent house was foreclosed, and the bustling office fell silent. He found himself with nothing but a few personal belongings, and a heart heavy with failure and despair. He had lost everything he had worked for, everything that had defined him. He was no longer Art, the successful architect. He was just a man, broken and lost. In his darkest hour, he retreated from the world, finding refuge in the small apartment that would become his sanctuary. The initial days were a blur of bitterness and regret. He replayed his failures over and over in his mind, cursing his luck, cursing the world. The silence of his small apartment was deafening, amplifying the noise of his inner turmoil. He was adrift in an ocean of self-pity, with no land in sight. He felt invisible, a ghost haunting the remnants of a life that once was. The city he had helped build now seemed like a monument to his failure, its towering skyscrapers mocking him with their silent, imposing presence. One cold, rainy afternoon, as he sat staring blankly at the drops, tracing paths down his window pane, he noticed a small, determined weed pushing its way through a crack in the pavement below. Despite the harsh concrete and the relentless rain, this tiny plant was reaching for the light. Its green leaves a vibrant splash of life against the gray city. Something about its simple, unwavering persistence stirred something within him. It wasn't striving for greatness or recognition. It was simply being, embracing its existence in the small space it had been given. For the first time in a long time, he felt a flicker of something other than despair. He looked around his small apartment. Really looked for the first time. He saw the handful of books that had survived his downfall, companions from a time before his relentless ambition. He saw a worn photograph of his parents, their smiles, gentle and loving. He saw the simple kettle on his stove, capable of providing the comfort of a warm drink. And in that moment, a single, unfamiliar thought surfaced in his mind. "Thank you," he whispered it aloud, the words feeling foreign on his tongue. "Thank you for this roof over my head. Thank you for this cup of water. Thank you for this moment of quiet." This was the beginning of his transformation. He started his daily ritual, not as a grand gesture, but as a small, personal act of survival. Each morning, he would find new things to be grateful for. He was thankful for the comfort of his old armchair, for the melody of a song on the radio, for the intricate patterns of a spider's web in the corner of the window. He began to see the world not as a battlefield, but as a tapestry of small wonders. The emptiness inside him, once a gaping chasm, slowly began to fill, not with possessions or achievements, but with a quiet, profound sense of peace. He was no longer Art, the failure. He was becoming Arthur, a man learning to live. His newfound peace began to radiate outwards. He started taking walks through the neighborhood, not with a destination in mind, but simply to observe. He noticed the way the sunlight filtered through the leaves of the trees in the local park, the friendly nod of the woman who ran the corner bakery, the playful antics of stray cats. He started talking to his neighbors, not about business or success, but about their gardens, their children, their lives. He would listen, truly listen, with an open and compassionate heart. People were drawn to his calm demeanor, to the gentle wisdom in his eyes. He wasn't offering advice or solutions. He was simply offering his peaceful presence. A young woman in his building, a musician named Clara, was struggling with immense pressure and anxiety. Her dream of becoming a concert pianist felt like a crushing weight. Each mistake in her practice sessions a confirmation of her inadequacy. Seeing her distress, Arthur invited her for a cup of tea. He didn't lecture her or tell her to work harder. Instead, he shared his own story, the story of art, and his relentless pursuit of a hollow dream. He spoke of the freedom he found in letting go, and finding value not in the grand finale, but in the beauty of each individual note. He encouraged her to find gratitude in her music. Be thankful for the ability of your fingers to move across the keys. He sighed softly. Be thankful for the sound each note produces, whether it's perfect or not. Be thankful for the gift of music itself, for the emotion it allows you to express. Clara began to apply this to her practice. Instead of berating herself for a missed note, she would pause, take a breath, and feel gratitude for the music she was able to create. The anxiety began to recede, replaced by a renewed love for her craft. Her music, once strained and technical, became filled with a new depth of emotion and a palpable sense of joy. She found her peace not in achieving perfection, but in the grateful process of creation. Arthur's story, and the change in Clara, began to ripple through the community. He became a quiet pillar, a source of unassuming strength. People would seek him out, not for grand solutions, but for a moment of peace, a cup of tea, and a reminder to be thankful. He taught them that a thankful heart was unbout ignoring life as hardships, or pretending that pain didn't exist. It was about finding the light, even in the darkest of rooms. It was about acknowledging the challenges, while also acknowledging the blessings, no matter how small they seemed. It was about shifting your focus from what was missing to what was present. Arthur lived out the rest of his days in that small apartment, a life rich not in material wealth, but in connection, in peace, and in gratitude. He showed everyone who knew him that true wealth is not measured by what you have, but by how much you appreciate what you have. He proved that a thankful heart has the power to transform a life of desperate striving into one of serene abundance. His legacy wasn't in the buildings he designed, but in the peace he cultivated, a peace that grew from the simple, powerful act of saying, "Thank you." And in the quiet corners of a bustling city, his story is still told. A gentle reminder that the key to a peaceful life is not found in getting more, but in being grateful for what is already there. It is a story of how a broken man found wholeness, not by rebuilding his fallen empire, but by cultivating the simple, profound power of a thankful heart.